Welcome learners. Let's start with another discussion on consumption in the course of Fundamentals of Economics and Financial Markets. In the last discussion, we discussed an important theory given by Keynes, that was the theory of employment. How this employment is determined, what is the point of effective demand, on what components, what attributes does this effective demand depends, aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Since it was a theory of short run, so aggregate supply was taken as constant given in a specific period of time. However, aggregate demand had two determining factors, that was consumption demand and investment demand. So, today we'll be discussing what is consumption demand. As in the last lecture I told you, I'll be discussing further what is this consumption demand, what is propensity to consume, what are the attributes of propensity to consume, how this consumption income relationship is established. So let's begin with today's discussion. The topics today we'll be covering would include consumption function, its concepts, its attributes, and an important law given by Keynes, that is his psychological law of consumption, that serves as a basis to a large extent of the consumption what we witness. Even this law holds its importance and relevance today. Now, when we say consumption is whatever we are purchasing, paying to consume in the form of goods, in the form of services. But what we are consuming is a certain proportion of our income. See what we have discussed, Y is C plus S. That C here holds consumption. Certain proportion of our income we are consuming. Thus, consumption function or propensity to consume refers to income-consumption relationship. That means at various level of income, what is the amount, what is the proportion of our income that we are consuming. Symbolically, we can say that consumption is a function of our income, in which income is an independent variable while consumption is a dependent variable. That means what? That means changes in income would lead to changes in consumption. Thus, propensity to consume is a schedule which describes the amount of consumption at various level of income. It is a functional relationship of the aggregates. Aggregates of what? Consumption and income. Consumption denoted by C and income denoted by Y. However, this consumption-income relationship is based on the assumption of ceteris paribus. Ceteris paribus means other things being constant, meaning we are analyzing the impact of income on consumption. Rest all the things which could impact our consumption has been taken constant. So, ceteris paribus basically means constancy assumption of other variables. Thus, consumption is an increasing function of income. Means the relationship which Keynes discussed and derived and propounded was that when our income is increasing, consumption is also increasing. Earning suppose 500 rupees, out of that 500 rupees we are consuming 300 rupees. If our income increased to 800, the consumption also would increase. When we see this consumption income schedule, if we try to understand the consumption income schedule, say even when the income is zero, the consumption is still existent in this economy. This consumption is autonomous consumption. People are spending out of their past savings or wealth that they are having, the money they are having in form of wealth or in the form of savings. This consumption is out of that savings. So even when the income is zero, the consumption is still existent in the economy. At this point of time, what happens is savings are negative. Therefore, when we see this, I'll again make you understand this graph. See what is there. This amount, this portion of consumption is autonomous. Therefore, consumption function in the short run is not starting with from origin. Rather, this distance OX, I can name it, is the autonomous part of consumption that is existent in the economy even when the income is zero. This C is equal to Y. This is at 45-degree line. This line basically says that a linear relationship exists between consumption and income. This means level of consumption at various level of income is same. That means amount by which income is changing, the same amount is leading to change in consumption. If a 10% rise in income is there, the consumption is also rising by 10%. This XC is the short run consumption curve that exists here. See, this is the long run consumption curve. C is equal to Y at 45 degree, and this is the short run consumption curve C. When we say saving is negative, this portion of the curve. When saving becomes zero, consumption is equal to income where they are intersecting. Point E. Point E is here. See, so income is increasing. You can see in this table, consumption is also increasing. But one thing you will notice that income is increasing, but consumption is not increasing in the same proportion as increase in income. See here, the income has increased by 60. Howsoever, the consumption has increased by 50. Again, a change in income of 60 units, but the change in consumption is of 50 units. Similarly, our saving function is also increasing, and earlier at income OY1, the consumption was OC1, but when income increases to OY1, the consumption increased to OC1, and this gap between C is equal to Y and C line is the savings gap. That means when our income is divided again into consumption and this amount of savings what we are having. Now this consumption function, when we describe the consumption income relationship in this consumption function has two technical attributes to it, which were there in the theory of employment, where aggregate demand depends on the propensity to consume. The first is the average propensity to consume, and the second is the marginal propensity to consume. Now let us see what average propensity to consume tell us and what is marginal propensity to consume. Average propensity to consume basically tells us, it is a ratio which tells us amount of consumption to total income at various levels of income. That means what amount of consumption we are consuming at different levels of income. Therefore, APC, that is average propensity to consume, is equal to consumption by income. On x-axis, see in the graph, we have taken income. On y-axis, we have taken consumption. So this is the APC curve. OY1 is our income and OYC1 is our consumption. So APC would be equal to OC1 by OY1. That is, what is the level of consumption at given level of income. Same is written here. So, APC also now declines. Now, since it is a level of consumption at given level of income, that is the total income, as the income increases, the APC declines because the proportion of income spent on consumption decreases. Why does this happen? See, when our needs are satisfied, our wants are satisfied, initially we are purchasing more of consumer durables we are purchasing fridge, sofa, TV, car. Once we have purchased it, our demand, our want for that particular consumer good is satisfied. Now what happens? When slowly our income increases, our want for certain goods gets satisfied. So, the proportion of income which we are spending on consumption goes down. There is another concept of average propensity to save. That means what? When APC goes down, APS increases with increase in income. Maybe certain amount of income we are saving, our saving proportion in the income increases because our wants, our consumption desire have already been satisfied to certain extent. See, I'm not saying that you'll stop consuming as your income increases, but the proportion which you are consuming of your income, that goes down, that diminishes. Another attribute to this is marginal propensity to consume. Marginal propensity to consume measures the change. APC measures the proportion of income what we are spending on consumption. MPC measures the change in income that is leading to change in consumption. Thus, it is a ratio of change in consumption due to change in income. We say MPC is equal to change in consumption delta C by del Y that has occurred due to change in income. Earlier, I was at income OY1 and at that point of time the consumption was OC. At income OY the consumption was OC. Now the income has increased to OY1, so the consumption would increase to OC1. So movement from Y to Y1 is delta Y and movement from C to C1 is delta C. So Y1 minus Y divided by C1 minus C, that would measure the change. So delta C by delta Y would be our MPC. Marginal propensity to save is 1 minus MPC. That is the change in saving ratio because of change in income. This can be understood with the help of a schedule. See, when income is 50, consumption is there in the economy. We are starting with the equilibrium condition that the savings will be minus 10. Income is 50, consumption is there. Now the income increases, consumption increases. There, income is equal to consumption and saving becomes 0. Y is equal to C and S becomes 0. Now, further increase in consumption leading to increase in income. Now, what do we see? As the income is increasing from 50 to 100 to 150, 200, 250 and 300, APC is going down. That means our income has another important proportion, that is investment, or what we say saving. Means our income Y is being divided into consumption and savings. So APC is measuring only the consumption part. That means as income is increasing, APC is decreasing. We are spending lesser proportion of our income at a particular point of time. And what do we see in MPC? With the change in income, change in consumption is happening. So when we calculate, it's just for understanding that we have kept the figures like this, that MPC is constant. However, these can vary as well. So MPC is coming out to be 0.8. Change in consumption we can measure like 100 minus 50 divided by 100 minus 60. So it would be 40 divided by 50. That would come to 0.8. Similarly, this can be calculated. So Keynes came to an equation where he said that consumption, that is the basic line equation, that consumption is A plus B Y. Now what is A? A is the autonomous consumption, that is existent in the economy. B is the marginal propensity to consume, and Y is the income. So what Keynes said, that keeping the autonomous consumption, we are having it as constant, consumption depends on BY. That means B measures the rate of change of consumption due to change in income Y. See, same is explained here, that is del Y, delta Y, and this is delta C. This is delta C, change in consumption, and this amount is your savings. This is the savings gap. We can see this is savings. Over and above, the amount of income left after consumption is our savings. So this way, Keynes explained the concept of MPC. Now, what is the significance of MPC and the relationship between APC and MPC? We'll start with, when income increases, both APC and MPC decrease. Now what do we see? As the income is increasing in this schedule, APC is also and MPC is also there, but decrease in MPC is more than APC. Slowly we are taking as constant, but MPC falls but more than APC. Initially APC is falling at a lower rate of change and MPC at a higher. When income falls, MPC rises, APC also rises, but at a slower rate. Because change, when income falls, what happens? It happens because when we are acclimatized to higher standard of living, when our standard of living is gone up and due to some reason the income goes down, maybe the economic activities or the business activities are going down, we try to sustain our consumption out of our past savings, out of our wealth. So APC rises but at a slower rate. We say MPC rise, APC rise, but at a slower rate than former. Such fluctuations are only possible during cyclical fluctuations in short run. Thus, Keynes gave importance to MPC, emphasized that MPC holds a very important position in consumption-income relationship. And furthermore, he also emphasized that filling the gap between income and consumption through plan investment to maintain the desired level of income. He also put importance to the investment function that comes along with the consumption. Taking this income-consumption relationship in mind, there's a very famous law of Keynes, that is the psychological law of consumption. What are the postulates? Let's discuss it. What Keynes said, he said that when our income increases, definitely there's a positive relationship between income and consumption. We say consumption is a function, increasing function of income. So when income would increase, consumption would definitely increase. So consumption also increases, but he said that not in same proportion as increase in income. Why? Because earlier also I have told you that our income is consumption plus saving. So when income increases, consumption also increases, but our increase in income is divided between consumption and savings. For a rational consumer, for a rational behavior of an individual, we divide our increase in income between consumption and saving. So, income increases, consumption also increases, but not in the same proportion as increase in income. This additional income will be spent on consumption and remaining part on savings, as I told you, C and F. With increase in income, there will be an increase in both consumption and savings. Both will increase with the change in income. Both share a positive relationship with each other. See, same can be depicted with this schedule, that income is increasing, consumption is increasing, and the part of increase in income is divided between consumption and saving. See, by 60 units, our income has increased. Now, consumption has increased by 50 units and saving is minus 10. Same here, saving becomes 0. Now, when income again increases by 60, consumption is 50 and saving is 10. That means, if I am saying income has increased by 60 units, consumption by 50 and rest amount is divided into savings. Similar is the case shown here. This is the long run consumption curve at 45 degrees, where C is equal to Y. At every level of income, the consumption income relationship is proportional. This is the short run consumption curve C. As income increases, consumption at if we are at point C1, at that income, when income increases from OY to OY1, when Y income increases, the consumption increases from C1 to C2 and the remaining part goes as saving. Similarly, when we increase to Y2, the income is increasing, the consumption is going to C3 and this part is going as savings. So, with increase in income, consumption is increasing and so are the savings. This law of psychological law of consumption given by Keynes was under certain assumptions. First and foremost, it assumes constant psychological and institutional complex. Constant psychological and institutional complex basically means that people are not changing their habits, their consumption pattern, their taste and preferences so easily and in a short period of time. A person, if his saving behavior is more, so increase in income would lead to increase in consumption, but maybe he is saving higher portion for his investment purpose. If our taste and preference for a particular good exist, our consumption would increase definitely and certain amount would be saved. However, this law doesn't apply for misers, that whole part is saved and nothing is consumed. A rational consumer would definitely do, when income would increase, his consumption, a small amount would definitely increase and rest would be gone as saving. Similarly, the institutional complexes also not change easily. The policies, the rates, the behavior of the institutional complex, the structure, sudden technological change would not occur in the economy all of a sudden. It would take certain time, the resources would change, but after a certain period of time. So, in short run, it becomes difficult to all these institutional complexes to change. Furthermore, there exist normal conditions. The economy is in the normal state, business cycle, no fluctuations, much fluctuations are being witnessed, and the existence of laissez-faire capitalist economy, that government spending has not changed the consumer behavior in the form of additional money supply. Neither the tax policies have reduced the money supply or purchasing power in the hands of consumers, and that would have an effect on the aggregate demand. In such assumptions, Keynes' psychological law of consumption holds true. The implications of Keynes' law include invalidation of sales laws. That means all the income is not consumed, so supply would not create its own demand, certain amount would be saved. Furthermore, Keynes also emphasized that in certain situations, state intervention is also required to make certain autonomous consumption into existence. Autonomous investment also should be there, that is prevalent in the economy. Investment is important to fill the gap between consumption and income. Investment comes out from the savings, which is the saving investment identities in economics. So that gap, that saving goes into investment. Howsoever, marginal efficiency of capital, that is the rate of return of any capital asset, what individual purchase for production of capital goods what the manufacturers had, has always shown a diminishing tendency. See, consumption does not increase to the same extent as increase in income. That means what will happen? Say's law is repudiated, it invalidates the Say's law, supply won't create its own demand. So, if the consumption is not increase in income, the demand for certain goods will, consumer goods, capital goods will fall. So, the producers will reduce the demand for capital goods and there will be decline in MEC, marginal efficiency of capital. There is another danger that is always prevalent is the permanent over-saving or under-saving. As I told you, if by behavior a consumer is miser, what would happen? Whatever there is change in income and increase in income, entirely there will be saved. That means the consumer is not consuming at all. So, a tendency of over-saving is there. However, if the buying behavior or the saving behavior, buying behavior is showing a dominance over saving behavior, what would happen? Too much consumption would be there in the economy. So, when people are rich, the propensity to consume is low and they save more. The change in income, consumption is not in a line with the change in income. That leads to low demand. Furthermore, this also explains the turning points of business cycle, that before the economy reaches the full employment level, the downturn starts because people fail to spend the full increment of their income on consumption. So, it also helps in explaining business cycle, why the variables of business cycle are on a downward trend when a recessionary process creeps in, and when income falls, consumption also falls, but less than fall in income. Thus, existence of consumer goods leads to revival. So, an upturn phase and a downturn phase, both of the business cycle phases are explained with the help of Keynesian law of consumption-income relationship. So, the question for today is, Keynes' discovery of consumption function must be regarded as one of the major breakthroughs of modern economics. Discuss. This would definitely include the evaluation of the Keynes theory, Keynes law and its importance. Furthermore, we will be dealing with, in the forthcoming lectures, the factors that would be affecting, that have an impact on this consumption function, as well as the various theory which try to describe the consumption-income relationship, proportionality and non-proportionality. These are the suggested readings of Edward Shapiro, Oliver Blanchard, William Branson and K.C. Rana and Ken Verma. So, learners, thank you for today. Soon we will be meeting in the next lecture.